Likely. All right, everyone. Welcome to class number 16 of the entrepreneurial train. What is that? Is that Michelle for 16?
Exactly. Yes.
I didn't know if are you going to be my sign language interpreter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I got it.
Perfect. I actually know what that means, and I'm not going to translate that while being recorded. Welcome to class number 16, everyone. This class is the beginning of a content creation challenge that we're going to do for you. So the next 5 classes are going to be, we're going to talk about a lot of things we've been talking about, especially creativity. We're going to break that down. But this is really just all going to be about unlocking your creativity this whole week. And I want to know how you feel about that, because a lot of people know that creativity is a big deal, but a lot of people feel creatively blocked or creatively constipated or just doubtful about your creativity. And it's really important to understand the world that we live in terms of building a business. If you want to be successful as a transformational coach, you have to create content, because content is how people will hear about you. Content is what they will consume. Content is what's going to make people go to the next step with you. It's going to make them want more information. So you really can't, in my opinion, especially if you're doing anything online, I'm just trying to think, like, if you were just going to go around and network with people and get people on the phone, then maybe you could just get coaching clients without content. But most people aren't going to do that. Yeah. So there's got to be content. But even with that, you've got to have content as a coaching program. You got to have content even in some of your discussions that will get people interested. So we live in a world today where content is pretty much a requirement as a transformational coach specifically. And you have to understand the different kinds of content. So it's not just typing out an email or putting a post out on social media. There are different sorts of content, different types. Some content is just simply to get attention. Some content is just to give people like a reaction, like you might post a quote or something like that. Some content is to invite people into a conversation. Some content is to invite them to another opt-in page or a website, or some content is to invite discussion. So there are different kinds of content. It's all strategic. What we want from a business standpoint is content that converts. What that means, not necessarily getting somebody to buy something. Somebody just gave us a little angry emoji, and I see it on our screen right there. Thank you for that. Whoever's mad at the first 3 minutes of this, that's amazing. And the little emojis, like, he's really angry too. Yeah. Like those eyes are so triggering to me right now. That's amazing. There's just so much disappointment in that little face, even though it's like there's a happiness gradient. It goes from like orange to yellow, and yet inside of the gradient is just disappointment and shame. So thank you for that. So conversion content doesn't necessarily mean convert somebody into a client. It just means going to the next step. Yeah. And that next step could be a bunch of different variables. So that's just a little bit of foreshadowing for the whole week. You're going to get a lot out of this. And if you follow along and do what we're inviting you to do, you're actually going to produce quite a bit of content. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. Before we do that, we want to celebrate a few people that have enrolled in eSchool. We'll continue to tell you about eSchool. That is the animated logo for eSchool. Michelle just gave it to you. So we'll continue to tell you a little bit about eSchool. That's going to start here in a few weeks. Yeah. And we just want to celebrate those of you that said yes this week. We have Anshul Sinha, hopefully I'm close on your name, Jennifer Oshwo, Michelle Taylor, Wendy Hazel, Angela Book, Kinsey Green, Dan McGee, Penny Fahey. So welcome to all of you who've joined eSchool so far. Many of you are asking questions about structure and dates and all that stuff. And again, we'll provide you with all of that. This week, we'll have a lot of the details. So you'll have a little bit more time to consume some of the details. So content creation challenge. What we want is at the end of this week, we want you to have proven to yourself that you've got more creativity than either you thought you did or than what you've been producing. So at the end of this week, we want you to have more. Before I go on, Michelle, why don't you share a little bit about this particular content challenge? Because we ran a version of this. We'll update some of it, but the skeleton of this content challenge we did a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that as a student just going through it. So just share a little bit about your experience, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I'll do the
animation.
The animation and the translation.
Yes. Well, a lot of you, if you watched the video from last week, you heard a little bit about my journey with content creation. And one of the things that was really hard for me to get past in my journey is that I had to, you see how good I am at blocking you out? Like of not.
Yeah, and I see you're now looking up and down and I'm not even doing anything. So anybody that just missed that, there's like, wow, Michelle's really distracted today.
One of the things that I thought early on in my journey, especially as like a transformational coach, is that all the stuff that I was going to share, all the content I was going to create, I really truly thought that it had to be completely original, never thought of or expressed or shared ever before. Like all of my ideas had to be completely brand new thoughts. And I'm curious if anybody that's watching this has a similar thought or belief where you feel like if I'm going to create content, like it has to be a brand new thought idea. And one of the things that was really probably the most helpful for me inside of this challenge is just recognizing that the way that creation works is that there are things that already exist in the world, and it's okay to see those things and take inspiration from what's already there and use that to create my own content, to create my own thoughts, right? Like there has to be, you talked about last week, Sean, like the ingredients of inside of this content, right? There has to be like the conflict, right? There has to be the other force, right? That's opposing. And so inside of this challenge really helped me be able to take all of the things that are already out and established in the world and help me actually see that I could use those to inspire my own thought process. And that was liberating for me. And so now I have ways to constantly be able to create content simply from the challenge that I went through at the time. I still have the outlines that I created, and I actually made posts on social media yesterday from that outline that I made just to, like, honestly, to prove that I could. So it was incredibly valuable for me. It's something I still use. It's something that I teach to the clients that I coach. So y'all are in for a treat if you really take this challenge. I don't want to say seriously because I hope you have fun with it, but if you actually implement it and do the work, this can change everything for you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey. One of the things that we need to do is shift the way that we consume content and that we think about ourselves in the idea of creating content. And we talked in one of the other classes about how a lot of people don't have a positive or inviting idea of being a guru or an expert or a content creator. those are all identities that a lot of us don't resonate with. And those identities are what's going to shut us down sometimes, as well as the beliefs. Like, you need to have exact original content. Nobody's ever thought about this thing before. In reality, you just need to have a different variable. That's it. Like, there could be 100 variables in your recipe. If one of them is different, then the whole thing is different to somebody. So it's a different perspective, but there really aren't any new human desires. So your content is going to be tied to a human desire. Your perspective could be different, and the best way to be different is to share your own unique perspective.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, and what I would say is counterintellectual, the way to appeal to a broader set of people is to go deeper in your own personal details. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, because we think if we just share the way we're thinking about it in our details, then it's only going to appeal to the people that are just like us. It actually has the opposite effect, because we are so similar internally in the way that we deal with our fears and doubts and insecurities and the things that we want. So that's one of the reasons why we really invite you all to go deep within your own perspective, because that's actually the way to grab people and create a lot of trust. So, and it's just liberating for yourself. You know, I think most of us, we just want to create if we know people are going to like it.
Yeah.
We want to create if we know that, and it's not even that people are going to like it. We want to create and know that people won't not like it.
Right.
And that's really what we're afraid of, is people not liking our creation, for most of us. And whatever that looks like, you know, whatever the specific fears are. So then that causes us to create something that we hope people won't like, which means won't not like, which means that we don't really create what's true for us. We just create a version of it that we hope they won't dislike. And that's not true creation. You know, you are publishing something or creating something and producing it, but that doesn't mean that it's really as liberating for you. So for many of you, you might not decide to publish any of the stuff that you produce through this challenge, but for some of you, it might just be an internal win where you recognize how important this is for you to just speak your voice. Even if you don't have the door open yet and you don't have people listening, just speaking your voice. It's like singing in the shower, right? A lot of us sing in the shower, in the car or something, and just the act of singing itself is valuable, even when other people can't hear it. And a lot of us only sing when other people can't hear it, because we don't want whatever that creates in terms of judgment. So for many of you, this could just be an internal thing, and that's totally fine as well. Wherever you are is exactly where you are. So whatever that next step is, we want to help pace you through that.
The other thing that and I didn't recognize this to be able to articulate it until you just were talking, Sean, is that it helped me start to shift from trusting everybody else 100% to asking myself, what are my thoughts, right? What do I think about this? How do I feel about this? How do I interpret this? How does this land with me? So it really enabled me to take the stuff that's out there, right? Like you were just talking about, and put me in it, put my own perspective into it, which is the biggest variable that's going to make it unique.
And it's a process.
Yeah.
So with so many things in the creative world, we don't want to get there. We just want to be there.
For sure.
We don't want to spend the time to unlock our creativity. We just want to be creative.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was several years ago for Michelle. I've been creating for a long, long time, but not really truthful, deep, I would say authentic creations until the last 4 years or so. So we're telling you like what's possible in the future, but we don't want you to think that's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to like just close your eyes, be with yourself, be with your thoughts, and then have a creation come out of that. For most of you, that's not your next step.
Right.
It's going to take a while before you even get to recognize who that voice is and give yourself permission and just go through the muscle building stages of
Right.
creating content. Right. And so at first you might have to create somebody else's content. Like Anna just said, I feel like a copy sometimes. That might be your next step.
Yeah.
Some people's next step might just be, okay, just do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Just do what it is that I want you to do. And then you just get in the motions.
Yeah.
And then over time, it can shift, right? So again, this is a process and we understand the process. That's why we want to try to pace you through the way we're pacing you through. So the way these next 5 days are going to work, this first day, which will be class 16, 18, and 20, the way that we're titling them in the entire series, are going to be the assignment days. We're going to give you an assignment to create something. And then the 2 days in between, we're going to maybe talk a little bit about the engagement that we're getting and answer some questions that you guys have. So it'll be assignment, Q&A, assignment, Q&A, assignment over the course of these 5 days. And your Q&A is going to be really important for you because it facilitates implementation. And the questions will be better if you've implemented.
Yes.
So we want implementation questions. We're going to give you an assignment today. We don't want you to not do it and then ask a question tomorrow about the theoretical idea of doing it. We want you to do the assignment and then ask questions based on doing the assignment. That's the way that you make progress. Otherwise, you're just going to stay in this theoretical what if field of fear, really is what that's going to be. And that intellectual creation of all the doubts and the what ifs, basically they're trying to pre-pave the road for you so that you know exactly what the unknowable is going to look like. And when you start opening up your creativity, you can't have a paved road. You just can't. And that's part of creativity. But we understand that that's uncomfortable, to say the least. It's scary to some people, but it's new for almost all of us. So we understand that. And that's what we're wanting to pace you through. Here's my goal for this. My goal is that you at least double your creativity over the next 7 days. Now, you're all at different places. So double your creativity could be, you haven't created anything for a month and now you create, well, we're going to more than double if you haven't created anything for a month. But for some of you, if you're creating quite a bit of content already, then I want you to multiply some of the things that we're saying for your pace. If you already create a lot, then use what you do and make sure that you're doubling it for the sake of this particular challenge. I would say for most of you, the assignments that we're going to give is already going to double or more your creativity. But I want to give you that personal adjustment if you want. And so part of that is to know what your current creativity is. How much do you create currently? I'd love to know. So you can post a comment here in this video. And if you feel ashamed of it, that's okay. Just because most people probably do. And I did for a long, long time. Michelle did for a long time.
Sure.
That's just part of it. And we can use that as fire to get this going. So this isn't like, we're not trying to compare you to anybody else, or we certainly don't want you to be shut down. We actually want you to just take inventory of where you are now so that in 7 days from now, if you follow all this, you'll recognize measurable progress. And that's what we're wanting.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as, exactly. There's no such thing as measurable progress if you don't know where you started. And then it's going to be hard to celebrate. All right. So cool. Thank you. You guys can type in and share where you are right now. So if you choose to stick with us through this content creation challenge, there are at least 3 promises. Number one, we're going to give you 3 simple ways to create content that pretty much anybody will be able to do.
Yes.
You're going to have at least 10 content outlines, not 10 things produced, 10 outlines. And it's going to be really important that you stick to what we're asking you to do.
Yes.
For time reasons, for pacing reasons. Trust me, we know how this goes. We know what shuts a lot of people down. We know that motivation actually hurts people's progress. I would say more often than it helps. And so we want to get in front of all of that stuff because we've done this a long time. So at the end of the 10 days, or the 7 days rather, you're going to have at least 10 content outlines. It might be a little bit more if you're already creating quite a bit. And then the third promise is that we're going to give you ideas and tips on how to create, or how to keep the creativity channel open and flowing. Once your creativity channel is open, it's virtually impossible to close it back down.
Yeah.
It's open, and it's like you just see everything from this creative channel. And then that's when it becomes a lot more unconscious. You become just like you're just a creator. And the cool thing is we all have that. So this is about getting back to what you already are. You already are a creator. You already look at the world, or did at least at some point in time, in this creative, exploratory, expanding, curious way. We're wanting you to get back to that and then actually create some content that will support you in the journey that you want to make and the people that you want to help, right? So I mentioned the identity of a content creator or a guru, an expert. A lot of people don't resonate with that. My question for you is, do you see yourself as a question answerer about the things that you know about? In other words, if people have questions about the stuff that you know about, can you answer them? I've never heard anybody say they're not a question answerer. They just say they're not a guru or an expert or a content creator or some other label. But I mean, what are they actually? They're just answering questions. So I want to get you into your zone of certainty. And if you have a topic that you are knowledgeable about, especially experiential knowledge, if people ask questions, you'll answer them. And that's really all we're doing in creating content, is answering people's questions. Sometimes they're questions that we need to deduce. Sometimes they're questions that they're literally answering. Sometimes they're questions that we need to go over there and find and then put them in our creation over here. But it's really just asking questions and then somebody answering them, right? In a moment, we're going to give you the assignment, but just to give you a high level of what I just said, part of creating a business, regardless of what model you're going to use, part of creating a business is to have a strategic vault of content ideas. And we call it your content skeleton. If you have your content skeleton, you can take a variable where you might actually be producing in some way, like it could be a live video on Instagram or Facebook, or it could be a live speech that you're doing somewhere. It could be an article that you're writing. You could take the variables and you've got the content skeleton, and you can fill in the production of whatever it is that you're going to create with all of the variables on top of your strategic content skeleton. And that could literally, set up your creativity, honestly, for years.
Yeah.
And I'm not being hyperbolic and over dramatic here, literally years with this content skeleton. But trying to just jump you to the content skeleton, for most people, that's going to be a little bit too much. We will use we will teach the full thing of the content skeleton in eSchool. That's going to take a while, and eSchool is a year. So, it'll be a while. But for those of you that see the value of that level of creativity and strategicness, strategization, it's extremely valuable. Right. So is there anything you want to add before we give lesson number 1, give the assignments?
Just yes. Yes, to all of that.
Perfect. So here's your assignment. Should you choose to accept it?
Choose to accept it.
We need the James Bond music in the background. Do you have that? Can you mime that? That's actually right on. Good. Awesome. So here's your lesson. I want you to find 5 blog articles, 5 websites. You might already have blogs that you follow in your area of expertise or interest. If you don't yet know what your area of expertise is as a teacher, you might just know something that you're interested in. This doesn't have to be something that you're currently doing if that's not where you are in your journey right now. So 5 blogs, blog articles, websites of people who are already established in your niche or in your area of interest. Different ones, right? So 5 different sources, 5 different people, 5 different companies. And then you're going to find one article from each of those blogs or websites, if you wouldn't say it's a blog, and consume the article completely twice. So you're going to read each article twice. The third step is to create a response to that article, your response to the article, but just an outline, not a full article, just an outline. Unless you're already a content creator and your next step is to go ahead and do the article, then I'll leave that to your personal discretion. But for the most part, for most of you, we just want you to create an outline. And I want you to create without filtering in the beginning. If you filter while you write, you're probably going to hate the process and you'll probably find reasons to stop the process.
Yeah.
People misunderstand what creativity is. We'll open that up in another video. We've already talked a little bit about it, but we'll even open it up deeper inside of this creativity challenge. Don't filter while you write. It's like just doing a first draft. You just write some notes. We don't want you to spend any more than 5 minutes on any one of these. Ideally, somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes. These are just quick action steps, right? For you to just read the article, do a 3 to 5 minute outline on each of them. Okay. You're not writing a full article. You're just writing outline. You're not even writing full sentences. You're just writing an outline. And I'll tell you how I want you to respond. This is number 4. It's kind of like the sub step of number 3, how to do it. I want you to respond in one of 3 ways. Either you like the article, but you would add something to it. So if the article is saying 3 ways to find the love of your life, but you think there's a 4th way or a 5th way, then you would add to the article. What would you add to the article? Or the second response could be, what do you disagree with? If there's something that they say that you don't agree with based on your experiences, then you could write a disagreement outline. Or the third thing is, if there isn't anything that you would agree with or that you would add to the article rather, and there isn't anything that you would disagree with, then just how would you put that same article in your words? If there are any stories, what stories would you replace those stories with from your perspective? So you're either going to add something to the article or disagree with the entire article or something in the article, or just rewrite it with your perspective. Now, I say rewrite it, we're just doing the outline. So you're not actually rewriting the whole thing. But if you were going to rewrite the article, this is what you would do, right? So I want you to pick 5 articles from 5 different sources and write response outlines. I only want you to spend 3 to 5 minutes on each outline. If you think that's not enough time, prove me wrong. And prove to yourself that if you take a lot of the filtering and editing out, it's amazing how quickly you can get some ideas. And an outline might be 4 or 5 bullet points. It's not like, it doesn't have to be a whole page outline of opening paragraph and closing paragraph and 3 and like supporting sentences. No, literally it could be 3 bullets. Could be a creative outline.
forget what you were taught in school about what an outline is. Just write down your thoughts.
Right. So if you follow this, then after you consume the articles, depending on how long they are, I don't know how long it'll take, but the creation part of this will be anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes. So I don't want this to take hours and hours and hours because we're starting something new. In the beginning of this, I just want it to take 15 to 25 minutes for this particular assignment. So Michelle has typed in the steps here in the comment section, and we'll put it in the Facebook group as well. If you're not in the Facebook group, go to bit.ly/etraining for coaches. That'll get you to the Facebook group. We're going to do a lot of our interactions there in the Facebook group. And remember, we're going to choose somebody who's been engaging in the Facebook group, posting written content and copy and doing the videos, and actually give away tuition into our year-long program of eSchool. So that's it for this session. That's it for this lesson and assignment. Is there anything you want to add, disagree with, or say in your own words, Michelle?
I'm really excited for everybody. Please, my invitation to you is don't overthink it. Anything that you're trying to do with that, recognize that it's happening. That's just your linear brain. Thank it for its service. Let it know that it doesn't belong here at this time, and then keep going in your creativity. So if the voices come up, am I doing this right? I'm not really sure. Is this the right way? Is this what Sean was wanting me to do? The answer to that is yes. So yes, you're doing it right. Your outline is great. This is exactly what we wanted you to do. If you hear the voices, acknowledge it. It's just your linear brain. It doesn't belong in the creativity conversation right now. So just ask it to pause and keep going.
The only way to not do it right is to not do it.
There you go.
All right, you all. Can't wait to hear how the process is for you and help pace you through some creativity unlocking. And we'll see you in tomorrow's session.
Bye, everyone.